Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video on Gran Turismo 7. I'm back with one of this week's brand new daily races and we are at Nürburgring GP in Group 3 for daily race C. I'm starting from the back, so you can see P14 and we are in the Porsche. This was actually the last race I've driven in the Porsche and I kind of think I'm going to go back to the Porsche because after watching this and watching the way it drives, I think it just seems like a nicer car to drive. So possibly going to get back in this Porsche and try and find some pace in this again, because I actually rewatched this and think, considering this was one of our very early races in the Porsche, I think it was like second or third race, the pace was actually pretty solid, so we should be able to go a lot quicker than what we did in here. So yeah, starting from P14, we got some fast drivers, some well-known drivers. We've got Rory at the front, we've got Bradley in front of us, a very quick driver. We've got Max Power in P2, so a pretty competitive lobby. It's not a weak lobby, it's pretty decent, so let's see what we can do from P14 on the grid and starting the race behind Bradley. So we know that Bradley is a very, very quick driver, and the Audi is actually pretty competitive here this week. It's absolutely brilliant to see how many different cars are actually competitive this week. I think there's between 7 to 10 cars that you can use and be very quick with at this track. So yeah, quite interesting that you can go a number of different cars for this daily racing. It's really good to see actually. So we're going to take a move there up on the inside of that Porsche, getting ourselves up to P13 straight away on lap 1. You see Bradley get a little bit sideways in the Audi. A little bit of a tricky car to drive on the limit, but a very rewarding car to drive as well, the Audi. So coming to the end of lap 1, one thing about this race is I think it could have been better if it would have been 10 laps. 9 laps feels just a little bit too short for me. I think 10 laps would have made this race a little bit more interesting. So you can see going into the hairpin here, the chicane, everyone having to brake very, very early. Nearly colliding with the car on the left, but we managed to get through that. The Ford with the penalty into the pit lane. We're going to try and go round the outside of Bradley. We know that he always drives fair. So round the outside, we managed to get a really good exit. However, the Lexus in front of us there, you can see giving the slipstream to Bradley. Fair play, because he wants to hold the inside. He doesn't want to get overtaken. So he's giving the inside there. And then back to the outside to try and make us probably fight a little bit into the braking zone. So watching the replay camera as we all go into the braking zone side by side with Bradley, you can see just behind the Lexus there, some really good racing going on here. And then into the next left-hand corner, again, side by side with Bradley. Bradley's going to try and hold it round the outside there, which he manages to do. But we're going to brake a little bit later now into this left-hand corner, and we managed to hold that. But now you can see that the Porsche is up the inside of Bradley in the Audi, but Bradley does manage to keep that Audi just slightly ahead there. So brilliant to see this. This is what we want from the BOP, and it does seem to work at tracks like this. The BOP is actually pretty consistent. I mean, you know, there doesn't seem to be an outright dominant car at the moment, and that's good to see. However, some tracks it's going to be totally different, like last week at Daytona when the Supra just dominated everything. Now we're going to come to the end of lap 2, and we are just behind the Lexus. You can see there Brown Banana goes a little bit deep, loses the rear slightly. We're going to go on the inside and get that position and put ourselves up into P7 in this race. We started P14, up to P7. Some drivers have pitted, obviously, took an early pit stop without a tyre change. This was early in the Monday, so people not 100% sure on the strategy. They're going for that no tyre change strategy, which saves you about 2.5 seconds in the pits or something like that, but it's not the ideal way. The faster strategy for this week, if you don't know, is to change your tyres. Anywhere from lap 4 to lap 5, really. You can go to lap 6. You could probably do lap 3 if you really wanted to, and it'll still have some tyre life left at the end. So if you are held up in traffic, pitting lap 3, getting that early pit stop, getting an undercut could work quite well. So think about that one as well. But you can see at the end of lap 4, we got 2 more cars going in the pits, and one actually crashed. You might have caught that on the corner of your screen there. Crashed on the pit lane entry. So there's 2 positions gained, and we're obviously now going to do the 5 laps. Now the reason I'm doing 5 laps is because the tyres still felt really good. You can see there we just done a 54.4, and considering this was one of our early races in the Porsche, there was a lot more time to find them. This is why I think I might be going back to the Porsche at some point, because very early on this Porsche just felt really nice to drive and the pace was pretty consistent with it. You can see here we're starting to catch up to this battle for P1, 2 and 3. Now technically we're not sure if this is actually the battle for P1, 2 and 3, because some cars have pitted without changing tyres, and obviously they're going to be ahead because they'll save time in the pit lane. However, they will struggle at the end of the race. So just trying to stay as close as we can to the Ferrari in front of us at the moment. The Ferrari is another car around this track that seems to be fairly competitive for its pace, and it is always good to see multiple different MR cars performing as well as FR cars at combination. It does give a lot more variety. I think it makes it more entertaining to watch as well when you've got Porsches fighting with Ferraris, fighting with Lamborghinis, fighting with Genesis fighting with GTRs. It just makes a more interesting situation. Also, the Supra is a pretty strong car around here as well. But you can see here, we're getting that slipstream. We're working our way up behind that Ferrari, and we are gaining as we're picking up a bit of draft from him. You can see as we go into this left-hand corner, just using a little bit of that green Astro to rotate it through there. Always helps to use a little bit of that on the entry. And then just being very, very cautious on the exit of this corner that you don't run into the gravel. But you can see our lap time isn't terrible here. We're only a couple of attempts off the 54.4. So on a decent lap, we get a bit of slipstream down this straight, but we are going to go into the pits now. Now, I expected the Ferrari to go into the pits also because obviously tyre wear. But it looks like he's going to go for the no tyre change strategy, and that is brilliant for me because now we're going to get into the pits without anyone in front of us. We've got obviously Max Power in front of us, but he's got pretty decent pace, and obviously he'll do pretty good pace on his outlap. So it should, depending on where other cars are now, we should come out into a pretty good area. And amazingly, I wasn't sure this would happen, but we actually seem to have jumped. You can see Rory and Sparks there behind us. I think they went for the no tyre change strategy, but we've actually come out ahead of them. So that is really good considering we started at the back of the grid and we're now up into P5. So great position here in this race, and it's looking like we can fight because we know there's some drivers that haven't pitted yet, and we're probably going to be able to get ahead of the Ferrari because we know that the Ferrari is going to lose tyres, and this race is definitely a tyre change race. It's quicker to do it with tyre change. So looking pretty good at the moment, going through that sector purple there on lap 7 now, where we've jumped forward a little bit, and you can see that we've actually started to catch up to the lead battle here. And the actual leader of the race has a massive moment. I think he was the leader. He might not have pitted yet. I'm not too sure whether he was the actual leader or not, or whether it's hard to judge with this race with people not changing tyres and stuff, and maybe he didn't change tyres and the rear tyres just completely gave up there. But yeah, we get a free position there up into P4, and now we're going to try and hunt down Max Power there. You can see picking up a tiny bit of slipstream from 1.4 seconds back. You're actually picking it up from about 1.7, a very small amount, but obviously the closer you get, the stronger the slipstream gets. Now, one good thing about this week is they are using custom slipstream, which is a massive positive because it means you can follow a lot closer at these type of tracks, and that's why you're finding the cars are quite closely in the middle sector. And I think some people are having a difficulty with that in terms of racing close with other cars, but you need to, I think people need to just get used to it because it's how it should be. You know, GT3 cars shouldn't be suffering from massive aero loss, and it's much more enjoyable to be able to follow around the track nice and closely and have good battles. But you can see we're getting a little bit closer to Max, not really in the groove on this second stint yet. We're doing okay, but we're not really putting in massive lap times. You can see as we go over the line here, it's a 54.5. It wasn't great. We should have been going a lot quicker now that we're on the second stint. So we're going to start pushing a little bit more on this lap now, on lap 8, and you can see getting a little bit closer in the braking, using that first gear for the rotation. The Porsche first gear is so good. You can see on the power there, getting so much traction out of first gear, and that's where the Porsche really does excel with some of these acceleration and traction zones. And then into this left-hand corner, using a little bit of first gear for rotation, you can see there, and then using a bit of the first gear traction to accelerate through up into second gear, and gained quite a bit on Max Power there. You can actually see we've got that gap noticeably a little bit nearer. So into the sector there, and then skipping ahead a little bit to the end of the lap, and you can see we're on a pretty good lap at this point. You can see going over the sector there, we're on a purple lap, and we're starting to catch up Max Power. We're going to try and get a really good exit from the chicane. If you really hook it up in the Porsche, you can absolutely send it, as you're about to see now. So if you get the tyres lined up right, you can throttle it right the way through that corner, and the traction builds up, and we gain massively there on the braking zone. Now we're going to try and take a slightly wider line because we want to get a better exit than Max Power, because this is a possible chance to go for a move. We know that the leader is coming out the pits now. You can see he's not changed his tyres, and as we come down this straight, we see the leader is actually on our right hand side there. So we're battling for the lead now, and we're going to go for an absolute Daniel Ricciardo send up the inside. Managed to just about slow it down, giving Max Power the space, keeping it on the track, and now into the next left hand corner, giving Max the space on the outside, just about hanging through there side by side. Now we're going to break deep from here, and he's going to actually go for a little bit of an undercut here. So we're going to try and rotate it in first, and now we're just going to hold the apex here. You can see perfect holding of the apex and out the exit, and still in P1. A brilliant move there. I'm really happy with that. And great racing by Max Power as well there to help that happen as well. Good racing from him. And now all we've got to do is hold on to the lead in this daily race C. From the back of the grid, a really good result from P14 to, if we can manage to hold this on. Obviously tyres are good. We don't need to worry about tyres because we've changed some tyres. We went a little bit longer on the first stint as well. Same strategy as Max Power. So now it's just about keeping it on the track without making mistakes. But obviously, you know, it's the final lap, anything can happen. But into the next left-hand corner, using some of the curb on the right to widen that line in. Again, the Porsche a little bit sketchy through there. The Genesis actually feels better through that section, which is a bit strange. I think it's because it's an FR car that you can ride the curbs a bit more with less of an effect on the way the car is, because you seem to be able to take a bit more speed through that section in the Genesis than I can with Porsche. But good exit off the right-hander there. Porsche very, very strong on that right-hander with rotation with third gear. And now all we've got to do now is just hook up this final chicane. So we've got enough of a gap. We don't need to go defensive. Brake early. We don't want to risk anything here. So up onto the curb. Again, over the bollard. Try and aim the car at the centre of that bollard. It will give you something to aim for, and you shouldn't get a penalty then. And now into the final corner. Just hold a nice tight line here onto the throttle, and we're going to take a win from the back of the grid in daily race here. Really fun daily race. I think if it goes well, it can also go very, very wrong, as we've seen in some other races when it gets a little bit messy. But yeah, 10 laps I think would have made this a little bit better. Let me know what you think in the chat. Would you prefer 10 laps in the comments? You know, would it have been a better race with 10 laps? I think it would have made a little bit more of an exciting race with 10 laps, but still, it's a pretty solid daily race, and hopefully you're having fun on it. But yeah, I'll be back with more videos. Get subscribed, hit the like button, and I'll see you all soon for more content. Thanks again for watching, everyone.